Welcome back, my friends, to Cultist Simulator. I am Blackendrose, and after doing the essentials video previously, it's time to get on to some of the more specific aspects of Cultist Simulator. Now, as you can see, this is the same session as before, but I've progressed much further into the play session. So there's a lot of different cards on the table. I've arranged things in certain ways, but I won't go into explaining all the different aspects of the cards right now. I'll explain those individually. So the first thing we're going to get... Sorry about that. First thing we're going to get through today is forming cults and the basis behind them. Because of course this is Cultist Simulator, so we want to actually form the cults. So the way this works is... Oh, excuse me. Over here we have various entities or people that I have encountered. Now, in order to encounter people, what we have to do, which I think I explained in the basics, but I'll just do a refresher. We take one of these lore cards I've got here, and it doesn't matter which one, we dump it into the talk category, and speak on esoteric matters. And now we'll just let that time down. I've got some other things going on at the moment that need some addressing. Just let that time down. I'll try to move this along as quickly as possible. Oh, whoops! Get the job going. Okay, so it takes around 60 seconds, I think, for it to time down, and let's see what we get. So it's an acquaintance. Now that speaking on esoteric matters can lead to an acquaintance, which is a possible cult member, or it leads to a patron, which I've got slotted down over here. Just put that into the job there. These various aspects I will explain in separate videos. So that drew passion to draw in a possible cultist member. Now it creates mystique, which is perfectly fine, and we have a new member. Now here's the thing. We have a selection of named people, and then we have these hanger-ons. Hanger-ons are basically worthless people that have no special abilities or skills at all, but they do serve a purpose. Whereas these named people have certain skills and capabilities that become apparent once you form the cult and start bringing them in. Because at the moment they're just acquaintances. Okay, so now we have a bunch of members. We now need to create our cult. Now, here's a handy tip. For first-time players, the best thing to do is to base your cult around the desire that you're working towards. So, the desire we're working towards is temptation, sensation. Or the temptation we're working towards is sensation. So, sensation is based on the Grail aspect lore. So what we'll do is we will create a cult based around the Grail. In order to do that, we just have to drag one of these people into the talk slot, found a mystical organisation. Doesn't matter which one, it's okay. And then we just start that. And so now that will time down. Ignore these other things that are going on. I'll just keep this going. Okay, so as we can see now, this person has served their purpose, but we've now gained notoriety, which is a problem, but it's a necessary thing. And now this new thing has come, this new activity, choose founding principle. Now, in order to do this, we just put a lore thing into there, so that's the Wildwood Club. Any lore in the game can form a cult, and the cult is based around that lore. But what we'll do is we'll make one based on the Order of the Bloody Cup. And now we just let that time down. Okay, that's now timed down. Pledge of Devotion. Now, the Pledge of Devotion is entirely based on the founding principles of the cult. So, in order to do this, we have to sacrifice a little bit of passion. I think we get the passion back once we do this, so we'll just let that run its course. And just as a side note, as you saw there, this is when the Hunter activates, and it's grab notoriety. that means that evidence is going to be made. Okay, so, and first recruit. So now we have to choose any one of these acquaintances or hanger-ons to be our first recruit. Which one to choose? Doesn't really matter, really. So let's just grab this one. Oh, a few things are going on here. Just get rid of this illness by paying money towards it. And now we just wait for things to time down further. And we have our cult. And we get our first believer. And our passion back, just depleted passion. Our law aspect back. And then we get the temporary HQ. And the cult card itself. The Order of the Bloody Cup. Okay, so now we have formed our cult. Now the real question that many of you will probably be asking, in fact what I'll do, in fact before I answer that question, I'll describe where we go from here. So, we have our cult. So what we can do is we can put this into the talk slot, and then we just put another person in, let's say this person, and then we have to use the law aspect we are going to use to bring them into the cult. Now you have to use the same law aspect that you used to create the cult. So the Order of the Bloody Cup requires you to use Grail law. To begin with, any kind of law will do. You don't have to fill out this slot. This is for implements and tools to be fitted into, but we don't really have any we can use for this purpose. I know that some of these things are lighting up, but we don't need that for the moment. So we'll just start on that. And that will bring them into the cult. Now, this particular person is our first believer. Named people have skills, and that is shown here, which is the aspect that they have. So this one has a aspect of 2 in the knock aspect. Now, that means that they have a specific talent. I think it's for breaking and entering, but factors like that become more useful later on. I'll just keep the job going, and this just times down, and we just need to wait, and there we go. So then we get our law back, we get our new believer, and we get our cult card back. And this believer is their aspect is moth, so that's all well and good. At one point I'll go through what all these law aspects mean and their applications, but for the time being this is just focused on the growth of the cult itself. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this again. I'm going to put a hanger-on in and invoke the Grail to bring them in. Now this becomes important, but while that is timing down, first things first, let's get that health back and get that back. Now whilst we're getting a new hanger-on, we have these guys from the cult. One of the things you can do is you can send them into town to search the city. Now this will come back with either a location or a possibility to hire someone. It looks like they come back with a location, which is a temporary thing that you can do, but we'll put them back in there. I won't explain what this does just yet. So we have our new member, a hanger-on. It has now become a pawn. Pawns always have one edge aspect, and it will never grow beyond that. Like, named people can be upgraded over the course of the game. Pawns never can. Incidentally as well, there is a limited number of people you can bring into your cult, in the sense of, if you lose people for one reason or another, you can't get them back. There is a limited number of pawns as well, so just try not to lose them as the game goes on, or try and minimise losses as much as possible. Okay, so there's a reason why I gained that pawn, and it's to do with this patron here called Poppy. Now, if you talk to a patron, you'll get a commission, but if you talk to Poppy, things are a bit different. So you have two options here. You could put passion in, which says you accept Poppy's offer. Now Poppy's offer is basically, she will give you a substantial amount of money and a very useful item, but after a set amount of time, she basically says that she will need someone to basically conclude, to complete things. What you can do is accept it flat out, or you can question her further to find out what she's on about. So we'll question her further this time. And as you can see, we have a chance for a hireling here. I'll just pull that out. We've just got tentative evidence. I'll leave that there for now. A hireling, basically, if I put funds in there, I can hire whoever this person is. And this person is slightly randomised. They have an edge skill of 3, so they are a bit of a brute, a hulking fellow. Not the most effective, but can be useful in a pinch. But we'll just let that time down because we don't need anyone. So as things stand at the moment, just keep making money because I'm going to need that as this series progresses. Okay, so we question her, and basically, yes, when the season of rags comes around again, my sponsor will require someone for an ending. You can provide someone sufficiently loyal, or you can provide yourself. Basically, what this means is that when you accept her offer, which I'm going to do now because it's very, very useful, then she will give you a substantial amount of money, but after, I think it's 500 seconds, then a new activity will appear, and it's a game over timer. And if you don't have anyone in your cult by that point, when the timer times out, then you are taken away and it's game over. So what you really want is, before you accept Poppy's offer, is to have someone available. Oh, it's 300 seconds. So we'll just slot that up over there. And we get our passion back. And we get a silver spintra. And 10 funds, which is a lot to work with. But now this timer's timing down. Now, an additional thing that you can do is, if I bring, say, this believer up into the talk slot, and then start talking with them, and then put the cultist icon in there, then it will activate their cult ability, their cult ability based on what their ability is. The level of success they'll have is based on the strength of their aspect. All new cultists other than hanger-ons start out at level 2. When you upgrade them, they become level 5, and then if you upgrade them again, they'll be level 10, which basically guarantees success. But since we can't do anything with them that would be mildly successful, we'll just let that time down. But basically, you can do things from kidnapping people to killing people to destroying evidence to robbing places to trying to get rid of notoriety and mystique. Like, there's a lot of things you can do, but they all come with risk. If it fails, you may end up losing the cultist in question. But if you succeed, then obviously things work out. Chance of success is based entirely on the skill level of the person involved, unless you start going after hunters, in which case other aspects of it come into play. Bringing people into the cult doesn't generate any mystique or notoriety, so whilst discovering people generates mystique and creating the cult generates notoriety, actually bringing people into the cult once you've learnt about them doesn't cause any problems. So it's generally a good idea to start bringing people in as soon as possible once you've actually created your cult, and just keep doing it over and over, because the different people have different skills. So this one has lantern skill, that one has moth skill, so yeah, it's all up here, so just keep that in mind. So evidence is still there. Tentative evidence can't become damning evidence unless they find more notoriety again, so I'm quite safe at the moment from any sort of problems. just let things time down a little bit more. A lot of this game will just be waiting for things to time out. I could be doing other things, but I don't want to overload people with content at the moment. I want to try and keep it segregated. So just keep bringing those cult members in. So, I mean, pawns aren't that useful for the majority of things, but they do have their purposes. And one of those purposes is when Poppy comes around demanding closure, just give them one of the pawns. They are basically sacrificial lambs. They can also be useful for being sacrificed if the police are coming after you, which has happened to me before. If the police have damning evidence and try to take you to court or put you on trial, I believe a pawn can be sacrificed instead, rather than you losing the game. Because if you are sent to trial and convicted, then it's game over. So they do have their uses, but the majority of their uses is sacrificial lambs. So just keep bringing these people in. You'll notice that over here that I have 2 ritual cards sitting in the wings. I'll explain how those work in a later episode. Or in another episode, depends when I upload this one. Okay, so the countdown timer has begun. Poppy has now shown up and seeks to complete the cycle. So what we can do is give her one of our pawns, and she basically says, "What a loyal friend you have here. Do say goodbye, Neil." And yeah, that's basically it. That we will lose that cult member. Like, they will disappear from the game. But the supplies that we get from Poppy are very useful. Plus, once we've done all this, Poppy then becomes a normal patron, so you can get commissions from her, just like any of the others. I'll explain how the patrons work in another episode. But for the time being, everything's just sort of ticking away rather nicely. The tentative evidence that I have up there, that will time down on its own, as you can see, and once it times down enough, then it will just disappear, and then the process will start anew. So that's all completed now. Poppy's now a patron, just like any other, and we have our cult of the Bloody Cup. Or was it the Bloody Cup? Order of the Bloody Cup. Now, upgrading your people is quite important, and I might be able to demonstrate how this works. So what we do is we'll take a believer that we have at the moment. It says promote a believer. Now, what you need to promote a believer is you need enough of your cult's aspect to be at level 10. And what this does, it allows you to then upgrade your member. I was able to use the silver spintra because it had 6 grail aspects, plus the lore that I had was 4 grail aspects, so collectively that was 10 grail aspect, and it allows me to upgrade that member to be the next level up, which will improve their skill from level 2 to level 5. So I'll pull them out. They're now a disciple. They have level 5 skill in knock, and you can upgrade everybody in your cult. You can't upgrade pawns, but any named person you can upgrade as long as you have level 10 in the cult that you're working with. To upgrade them to the next level is very specific. You will need to have someone whose skill is in the aspect of your cult. So in my case of the Grail, this person has Grail aspect, so I can upgrade them to their maximum level. But people who are not of Grail aspect cannot be upgraded any further than level 5. In order to upgrade them to their final level, level 10, you need to do the upgrade process again, but you will need to have a grand total of 21 of your chosen aspect. So again, I would need 21 Grail aspect, and that would have to be made up of lore and Well, the thing is, it's made up of lore, the person in question, and any tools. So the person in question would be at level 5 at that point. So what I would need to make up the difference of 16 from lore and tools. Now, that may sound like a lot, but the maximum level you can get for a piece of lore is 14. And as far as tools go, they can reach, I think about 12 is the maximum you can get for the vast majority of them. So it is more than possible to do. As far as what you can do with the cult now, you can continue to add people to the cult. You can get them to use their abilities to assist you. I believe I've got to see if I can remember how this works. The Grail allows you to seduce people so that you can capture them, so you can get prisoners, which becomes useful later. The Moth aspect is used for destroying evidence, if it's appeared on the table. Knock is used for burglary, which is very, very useful. I'm just sort of working my way through them. The ones that have edge are used for assaulting. I believe it's used for killing the hunter, which can be effective. I don't know if that also acts as capturing people as well, just through a different way. I believe Winter just goes out and kills people, right, a random person, and brings you back a corpse, which does have its functions. The Forge aspect, let me think, that allows you to basically do some blacksmithing work, but also very specific repair jobs, which becomes useful when you start getting tools later. The Lantern aspect allows you to do, it's almost like fortune telling, and its results can be rather varied. It can give you certain influences which become useful in rituals later. It's handy to have people of every aspect available to you, and that becomes very useful when expeditions come into play. And I will very quickly indicate how. In fact, actually no, I'll save expeditions for another video because that's a whole topic in itself. But this video's gone on for much longer than I'd hoped for. But that's how you form a cult. That's how you make use of your cultists, and that's how you upgrade your cultists. So I hope you found this useful, my friends. I hope this series proves useful for you to playing Cultist Simulator. But I will leave that there. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm Blackendrose, and I will see you in the next video. Take care, my friends. Bye bye.